couple of things before we get to the point. Back end's on now. There's the fender. Lots of little dome nuts. Jetson style rear indicators. That's what it looks like from the rear. So that's good. It's all right. It's going to take me a while to get used to the bumper plate sticking up like that, but never mind. Oh yeah, the the grip puppies are off. The grip puppies are off. They're interesting. They're designed to. Well, one of the things that they are sold on is cutting down on vibration. You got to understand, when I first put this thing together, the crankshaft was actually broken. One of the flywheels was loose and got looser over the 7 months I was thrashing it around. And also the primary chain was loose as hell, so it vibrated like you wouldn't believe, and so they were a temporary thing. And I don't really think I need them now. And to be honest, even when you're not wearing gloves, it's like you're wearing big gloves. I've never got used to them. They were kind of a necessary evil. But, they stopped my hands going numb for a couple of years, so thank you, grip puppies. Grip puppies aren't going to solve vibration, but they're definitely stop your hands going numb when you're sitting around in traffic. Okay. I'm using the clutch a lot. I always used to do it as well. What I want to talk about is this. I needed a smaller carburetor. Ideally, I wanted the Zenith one so I could get the big bread bin air cleaner. And that I still can't find one. Maybe the odd Zenith carb body. I mean, I've never seen a rebuild kit for them. I wanted something little. Essentially, even if I couldn't use the big air cleaner, the stock tank doesn't fit with my previous carburetor. The 76 tank that I made makeshift risers for at the front and just sort of flopped about at the back, that's fine with the CV40. But the CV40 is too tall when you put the proper tank on and bolt it down. It bangs, it's just stuffed right into it. It's not good at all. So when I saw a little carburetor for a Harley-Davidson for 50 quid, brand new, obviously I bought it. And I think I've done a bad thing. This is, now I've researched carburetors a bit more, this is a copy, this is a blatant rip-off pirate copy of an S&S. Now an S&S carburetor will cost you about 450 quid. We'll say 400 quid, this is an eighth of the price. The reason it's an eighth of the price is two things. One, they didn't have to develop it. All that money they don't have to recoup. They didn't have to advertise it. They didn't have to build a brand. So all that money's not important. That's gone. Also, as I'm about to tell you, quality control. They don't really keep up on that. Now, I'm told this is from China. The thing about China is when they're making parts for, say, iPhones, they know that if a dodgy batch goes in, they're going to lose their company's going to lose the contract. That is not acceptable. So quality control is very high in a lot of Chinese factories when they're making Western goods. Now, the thing is, when they're making just a knockoff for 50 quid, it's nothing like as high, okay? It's not as high as Chinese people making Apple parts, and it's not as high as American people making S&S parts, right? In fact, it's non-existent. When I put this thing on, it started fine, and there was a huge flat spot in the middle, and I couldn't get it off choke. It would not come off choke. And when I pulled the throttle far open, that was fine. It went like an absolute rocket. So I thought it was something to do with the main jet. So I undid the float bowl, and the main jet fell out. So, okay, that might have something to do. Screwed it back in, same problem. It comes with a selection of jets, so I put progressively larger ones in to try and maybe it's fuel starvation. It's not getting off choke. It's not sucking it in. No, it wasn't that. What it is the emulsification tube, which the main jet screws into, which is this, sometimes called a discharge tube, is supposed to have tiny little holes machined along it to let little bits of fuel out. I don't entirely understand it, but they've all got this. Japanese bikes, Italian bikes, American bikes, British bikes, they've all got little holes on it. When I got this one out, I've put it back together temporarily, no holes on it. A whole batch of discharge tubes hadn't gone through one stage of machining. Either nobody picked up on it, or they thought, sod it. Because it's not, quality control is not an issue with piracy. Now, I'm not complaining. If I'd done my research, I would have known what I was buying. and I would have stayed clear, and I would have saved my pennies and got a proper S&S if that's what I really wanted. And I am kind of leaning that way. You know, the fact is, this thing's useless. It can't be used. So people say, what do you expect for 50 quid? For any amount of money, you expect something that works, but that's not how piracy operates, okay? So, cheap. There's a CV40 version as well that retails for about 80 quid, which is way beyond. So that's obviously one of those as well. It's cheap for a reason. You might get a peach. You know, if that batch of holes had been drilled, I probably would never even noticed what it was or even got involved with it. I just would have put it on and forgot about it. But you might get a peach, but you're probably going to get a lemon, and it's morally wrong. Cheery bye.